Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We are at day one, where the theme is climate crisis to climate resilient state. How do we get there? Welcome to session number one, climate resilience, perspectives on governance. I'm Deborah Gore, the former CEO and president of the Green Lining Institute. I'm coming to you from Oakland, California, but I know this is an international summit, so welcome everyone. Let me just set the table here for you all for this session number one. At both the state, national, and international levels, governance has played a key role in shaping our path from crisis to resilience. So governments at all levels have been leading the charge with ambitious climate policies, clean energy investments, and innovative strategies. And at the same time, provide funding and policy frameworks to ensure that frontline communities, particularly low-income communities and communities of color, are prioritized, as you've heard from the Pontifical science and Pontifical social science. So appreciate the framing of community along with climate. So the session one and all today, we will be asking the question, how do we get there? So climate change and climate resiliency requires a government and governance perspective, not just nationally, but globally, because of the impact on communities, economies, and infrastructures, necessitating coordination across all levels of the government, including governors for statewide policies and international policies that direct emergency response services, mayors that lead local initiatives, implement climate action plans, and oversee critical infrastructure updates, city council, boards of supervisor, different structures that approve the funding, that pass ordinances, and that ensure local policies align with the climate resiliency and the community needs. And lastly, local jurisdictions. At the end of the day, it's block by block, play a crucial role in land use, disaster preparedness, and community engagement. So without leadership and without collaboration from these government entities, efforts to address climate change would be fragmented, inequitable, and insufficient to meet this moment. So what we have is a panel that will hopefully address or share with you perspectives that they have. We are so honored to have this exceptional panel of leaders who bring a diverse and in-depth perspective on urgent and evolving movement for climate resiliency. So you will get in this session, you will get a blend of some video speakers and some in-person speakers. We have some presentations I think you will find fulfilling and hopefully trigger some curiosity and move you to action. So the four speakers that we have in this session, in this first session, we will begin with Governor Maura Healey. As the governor of Massachusetts, Maura Healey has been a national leader in advancing climate policy, driving clean energy initiatives, and ensuring environmental justice is at the heart of a state-level resiliency planning. Her administration is focused on bold action to reduce emissions, fortify infrastructure, and support communities. Then we will hear from Governor Wilbur Ottichilo. As the governor of Vihiga County, Kenya, Dr. Ottichilo has integrated science-based climate action into local governance, emphasizing sustainable land use, water conservation, and community-led strategies. His expertise in environmental science and policy has been instrumental in building resiliency in both rural and urban communities. Then you will hear from Governor Kataro Nagasaki, leading Japan's Yamanashi Prefecture. Governor Nagasaki has championed renewable energy projects and disaster strategies, resilience strategies that serve as a model for regional sustainability. His leadership in green technology and water resource management and climate adaptation reflects Japan's commitment to environmental leadership. Governor Nagasaki has partnered with SGH2 Energy to develop carbon negative hydrogen production. You'll see that in a very powerful video. And then we have Deanne Criswell, very honored to have somebody who's just been in the thick of the fight and in the recovery and in the resiliency as the former administrator of FEMA Dan Criswell has been at the helm of disaster preparedness and emergency responses in the United States. With extensive experience in crisis management, she has shaped national resilience policies, ensuring that federal, state, and local all work together to mitigate and recover from climate-driven disasters. So each of these leaders will bring a unique and invaluable perspective, hopefully, to engage you in a conversation well after this summit. And together we will discuss some policies and strategies. But first, let's hear the video message from the governor of Massachusetts, Maura Healey.
Hi, this is Governor Maura Healey. I wish I could be with you live today, but I'm grateful for this opportunity to add my voice and my state's commitment to this critical conversation on climate. I want to recognize my colleague and friend, Governor Gavin Newsom, for his leadership and for his work in California. I want to thank Chancellor Marcelo Suarez Orozco of UMass Boston and Dr. Ram Ramanathan for leading this worldwide effort. I want to recognize the profound global leadership of His Holiness, Pope Francis, who is in our thoughts and our prayers. My experience at the Vatican Climate Summit last year was truly inspiring. We know today more than ever before that the climate challenge can't be solved by one country, state, or city acting alone. Joining together across the world, combining our knowledge and linking our work, that's the only way forward. Following up with regional summits, as you're doing in California and soon we'll be doing in Massachusetts, will deepen our collaboration at this critical moment. We continue to see extreme weather, most recently in Southern California's devastating wildfires, damaging homes, businesses, and communities. And we continue to see the world's most vulnerable people bear the brunt of these impacts. We must act in government and the private sector as well. In Massachusetts, getting to net zero carbon emissions by 2050 is not just the law, it's a social and economic imperative. So we have to change the way we work to be more nimble, innovative, and collaborative. That's what we've been doing in Massachusetts. Led by our first in the nation climate chief, Melissa Hoffer, we're aligning all of our efforts with our climate goals. That means not only energy and environmental policy, but every agency of government, from housing to transportation, to education, to job training, and to capital planning. All of that has to work together. For example, last year I signed our economic development bill, which will invest over $1 billion in climate technology in Massachusetts alone. We're helping private sector innovators scale up their ideas to decarbonize our economy and make us more resilient. Climate change and its impacts are expensive. We believe climate solutions not only save money, but they're also economic drivers because they create good jobs as they create healthy communities. And we're eager to share Massachusetts innovations with the world. So thank you once again for your commitment to this work. I hope to see you soon as we continue the conversation and do the work ahead.
Thank you, Maura Healey, for that important message and the progressive and innovative work that you're doing there, and in particularly appointing a climate chief. And now I'd like to invite the governor of Vihiga County, Kenya, truly a global summit that we're at today, Dr. Wilbur Ottichilo, to share his opening comments with us. Dr. Hilo, is Dr. Ottichilo? Oh, you're muted there. Can we unmute Governor Ottichilo?
Thank you for this opportunity.
Yes.
May I take this opportunity on my own behalf and on behalf of the people of Kenya to send the participants of this very important summit warm greetings from Kenya and specifically from Vihiga, where I am the governor. Ladies and gentlemen, this summit is building upon the one we held in May 2024 at the Vatican, where Pope Francis led us into signing a planetary call for action, and comes at a moment when the impacts of climate change are becoming more intense, with devastating impacts on lives and livelihoods. I am convinced that this summit will provide an exceptional opportunity for sharing experiences and approaches from region-specific actions towards addressing climate change, as per the rallying call of this summit, which states, innovate locally to inspire change globally. Distinguished participants, I highly appreciate that the Pontifical Academy of Science and Social Sciences are sponsoring 10 regional summits on climate resilience globally, and one will be held in Nairobi in the very near future. This underscores their commitment to climate action and indeed walking the talk of Pope Francis' planetary call to action. We all witnessed the disastrous consequences of climate change during the fire calamity in California. Indeed, it was to a scale that is unprecedented, with the most severe impacts to lives and livelihoods. Even though miles away, many Kenyans had their heartfelt sympathies to the victims. Ladies and gentlemen, climate change is accelerating in ways that are hard to predict, and many of the induced changes are largely irreversible. While climate change is a global phenomenon, its impacts are in context specific, hence the need for regional climate summit of this nature. Global temperatures are increasing, with 2023 being the warmest since 1850. The global response to climate change is globally guided by the Paris Agreement, which is the legally binding global framework for coordinated effort to tackle climate change. The agreement targets global warming of well below 2 degrees of pre-industrial average. The implementation of this Paris Agreement is done through countries submitting the commitments to emission reductions, known as nationally determined conditions, or NDCs, and its implementation is coordinated by the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change Secretariat. However, it should be noted that despite of these ambitious commitments, most countries have not put in mechanisms to attain them, while some have submitted low commitments, which even if attained cannot lead to reduction in global warming to below 2 degrees. There is no credible monitoring mechanism to check on the level of fulfillment of the NDCs, which call for strengthened mechanism for monitoring and reporting on commitment. As we look at Africa, it is noted that Africa accounts only for 2 to 3% of the global greenhouse emissions, but just like regions dominated by least developed countries and small islands, suffers the most from the adverse impacts of climate change. Impacts of climate change in Africa threaten to stall or reverse the efforts towards food security, human health, and broad-based economic growth and development. Some of the observable impacts of climate change in Africa include increasing temperatures, droughts that have increased in intensity, and heavy rains and cyclones. All these have negative ramifications on agriculture, which is the mainstay of Africa's livelihoods and national economies, supporting 55 to 62% of the labor force in sub-Saharan Africa. The continent's agricultural productivity growth has declined by 34% since 1961 due to climate change. This decline is the highest compared to other regions in the world and poses adverse effects on food security, human health, and infrastructure. Africa's response to climate change is anchored in the Africa's Agenda 2063 framework that calls for sustainable management of biodiversity, conservation of forests, land and water resources, as well as disaster risk reduction. Ladies and gentlemen, as regards actions that are being taken by the African initiatives, we have so many initiatives being taken, particularly through the African Union initiatives. We also have the African Development Bank, which has initiated a number of programs to deal with climate change. Allow me now to talk briefly about Kenya, and then I zoom into my county. The Republic of Kenya is within the region, the East African region, and occupies an area of about 582,000 kilometers square and has a population of 55 million. In recent times, Kenya has witnessed extreme climate events which have caused major human suffering and economic losses, approximated to be 3 to 5% of our GDP annually, due to climate-sensitive nature of Kenya's economy of over-relying on agriculture, energy, tourism, and wildlife. Cognizant of the aforementioned threats of climate change, Kenya has instituted numerous governance actions to enhance resilience and address climate risks. These actions are anchored on Article 42 of the Kenya's Constitution, which guarantees the right to health and clean environment. Climate change governance frameworks have been formulated in Kenya, and these include the National Climate Change Response Strategy of 2010, the Climate Change Act of 2016, which provides the development and implementation of mechanisms to enhance resilience and low carbon sustainable development of Kenya. The Act establishes National Directorate to coordinate climate action and climate council chaired by the President, which gives strategic direction on matters of climate change. The Act provides a framework for exploration of carbon markets. The Act further anchors the National Climate Change Action Planning, which guides prioritization and implementation of climate action in a 5-year cycle. Ladies and gentlemen, all these are implemented as per the Paris Agreement of 2015, through which Kenya has committed to abate the greenhouse emissions by 32% by 2030, relative to the business as usual scenario, and is estimated to cost $62 billion US. Climate change impacts are felt most at grassroots levels, where subnational governments play a crucial role in the implementation of climate action. Anchored on Section 6 of the Constitution of Kenya, 2010, Kenya has one national government and 47 county governments, with both levels of government performing distinct but interrelated roles. Allow me now just to zero in on Vihiga for just a few minutes to show what we have done as a county. Ladies and gentlemen, subnational governments in Kenya have instituted climate governance framework through the following. First, all the counties have enacted legal framework on climate change. Second, they have established a climate change institutional framework to be able to manage climate change. And this is guided by the legal frameworks. The subnational governments have established coordination structures at county and ward level. The county level structures are mainly consist of climate committees and directorates that manage climate change issues. The other issue that we have established at the subnational level is establishment of climate framework on mobilization of climate finance. Through this, every subnational government is supposed to allocate certain amount of its budget on climate change activities. And this range from 1% to 5% of their budget to be dedicated to climate change. The other area we have focused on is on formulation of climate change adaptation and the resilient planning framework. And this entails participatory climate change risk and vulnerability assessment, which is a scientific process to identify the most significant climate risks and develop county climate change action plans to address the identified risks. Both processes are community-led and inform the utilization of the county climate change funds. The process was recommended for scale out for the rest of Africa, and was recommended for adoption for Africa during the Africa Climate Summit held in Nairobi, Kenya in September 2023. Finally, in conclusion, in line with the rallying call of this conference, innovate locally to inspire change globally, all sectors should promote locally led initiatives where decision-making is devolved to the community level, address structural inequalities within the community, provide flexible and predictable funding, invest in local capacity building, and ensure transparency and accountability mechanisms are in place. Such national government and other local actors should design and implement solutions based on their context needs and approach faster ownership and incorporate indigenous knowledge, which leads to effective implementation of climate action. And finally, despite the establishment of a requisite climate governance and financing frameworks, there is a need to build capacity of African states and support subnational governments to tap into emerging climate financing mechanisms. Africa's vast tropical rainforests, such as the Congo Basin Belt, vast savannas, mangroves, woodlands, have a huge potential for carbon credits. Yet inadequate capacity hampers Africa from tapping into this potential. Perhaps forums such as this should also be organized in Africa as a first step towards building capacity, and in my humble request that the Pontifical Academy of Sciences and Social Sciences organized one of the 10 regional summits in my country, where I have partnered with the Kaimos University and other established climate change centers. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor Ottichilo, for those comprehensive comments from the continent to the country to the county, including resources, both financial initiatives and directive. You are absolutely providing leadership for all of us to, as you say, innovate locally and engage globally. So thank you for those comments. I'd like to take us now to another video recording from the governor of Governor Nagasaki, and he is the leading Japanese governor from Yamanashi Prefecture in Japan. So with his comments, we will come back and then hear from Deanne Criswell.
Good morning, everyone. I am Kotaro Nagasaki, governor of Yamanashi Prefecture in Japan. I wish to express my deepest appreciation for this meaningful opportunity to speak to those who here who are committed to addressing global warming. I would like to give a special thanks to the chair, Dr. Ramanathan. In today's video presentations, I'll be speaking about the Fuji Hydrogen Battery Consortium, an ambitious initiative undertaken in Japan to achieve a decarbonized society. It goes without saying that the issue of global warming is becoming more and more serious. Natural disasters are occurring more frequently with rising sea levels, increasingly powerful hurricanes, and coastal flooding, causing severe damages. Not too long ago, I heard about the wildfires that occurred in California state, causing extensive damage. I offer my sincere condolences to Governor Newsom and to all those who are affected. As the governor of Yamanashi Prefecture, I have also dealt with the issue of wildfires. Now, what action should be taken to mitigate global warming and facilitate the transition towards a decarbonized society, as well as speeding up the adoption of more renewable energy and energy conservation initiatives? There's one key technology we must not overlook. It is imperative to advance the development of green hydrogen technology that does not produce CO2 and promote the widespread use of green hydrogen system in society. We have been developing green hydrogen-related technology for many years here in Yamanashi, which is one of the most advanced not only in Japan, but also in the world. Yamanashi Prefecture is home to the World Heritage Site, Mount Fuji, and the scenic Fuji 5 Lakes regions. Green hydrogen technology development and demonstrations are currently underway here in the Fuji 5 Lakes region. Yamanashi Prefecture and Fuji 5 Lakes regions are only 150 kilometers and 90-minute drive away from Tokyo by highway. After the opening the Maglev train, it will only take 30 minutes. Let me introduce you to one of the world's most advanced green hydrogen production technologies, the P2G system, short for power to gas, developed by Yamanashi Prefecture. This is the P2G system. It produces green hydrogen through water electrolysis using renewable energy power. This is a panoramic view of Komikuro research site. It's a setup of development, demonstration, and implementation of P2G technology. As a prefecture, we have created comprehensive technological ecosystem centered at the research center, from the production to storage, transport, and utilization of green hydrogen. We are also conducting various pilot experiments in the Fuji 5 race region. This is a distant view of green hydrogen utilization ecosystem at the Komikoyama research site. We call this entire area the Fuji Hydrogen Valley. This is a trailer that carries green hydrogen. And this is a supermarket chain which uses green hydrogen. This is a photo of Santry Hakushu Distillery, a global whiskey manufacturer which operates on green hydrogen. Of course, the P2G system isn't limited to the Fuji 5 race regions. It is also being used throughout Japan. This photograph features Tokyo Big Sight, Japan's largest convention center in Tokyo. With the cooperation of Tokyo Metropolitan Government, our green hydrogen is being used at this venue. This is a photo of Kawagoe factory of Taisei Urec Company Limited. Our green hydrogen is also being used here. Furthermore, the P2G system is also in use overseas. For instance, the system has been adapted at the automobile factory in Haryana state in India. It is also used to provide heat at a factory in Glasgow, Scotland, in the UK. Thus, the Fuji Hydrogen Valley Consortium has already established a wide, extensive network consisting of local authorities and companies, both nationally and internationally. This is an example of a network comprising Japanese local authorities and businesses, as well as governments and local authorities worldwide. The Fuji Hydrogen Valley Consortium, an international consortium which also functions as an international organization, is working towards achieving a green hydrogen society through worldwide networks. Now, what are the next challenges of the Fuji Hydrogen Valley Consortium? I'll be introducing 3 projects. Our first step will be the plan for a Fuji tram. This is the adoption of public transportation powered by green hydrogen. We're taking on an unprecedented project by creating a green hydrogen-powered transport system in the area surrounding Mount Fuji, a symbol of Japan and renowned World Heritage Site. Second, we hope to realize carbon-free agriculture. With a hydrogen bank system, we are aiming to create a social system where farmers convert electricity generated by solar power in the summer into green hydrogen, soy, and use hydrogen heating in the winter. Third, we strive to create a vision of hydrogen society. What will a hydrogen society look like in the near future? As a final proposal, we are suggesting a network think tank and international conference. Through this initiative, the Fuji Hydrogen Valley Consortium advocates for a vision of future society to the world. And the Fuji Hydrogen Valley Consortium is currently making efforts in pushing forward through ongoing global collaborations. For instance, the collaboration with Uttar Pradesh state in India. Last December, I visited India and signed an MOU with Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath. And I signed another MOU with Minas Gerais state in Brazil. In March of last year, I had the honor of signing an MOU with Governor Romeo Zema during his visit to Yamanashi Prefecture. These are global partners of Yamanashi Prefecture. Thus, what are the goals of Fuji Hydrogen Valley Consortium? Firstly, promoting the facilitation of a green hydrogen energy system on a global level. Secondly, realizing a green hydrogen society and community. And lastly, through these initiatives, the realization of a sustainable society and promoting measures to tackle global warming. We must act now to tackle global warming. It's now or never. To conclude, I'd like to extend 5 invitations from the Fuji Hydrogen Valley Consortium to the organizers and participants of the CRC2 Summit. These are the invitations from the Fuji Hydrogen Valley Consortium. 1. Information disclosure and exchange. 2. On-site project inspections. 3. Joint project development. 4. Raising awareness on hydrogen. 5. Launching joint international events. Now, I'd like to present 2 new projects that lay the foundation for these 5 invitations. First, we have the launch of Insight, an experimental community that promotes the development, demonstration, and utilization of various green hydrogen technologies. Furthermore, the experimental community Insight aims to undertake various projects involving the use of green hydrogen in different aspects of society. It will be accessible to the global community, welcoming visitors, moving forward with the development of international joint projects. SGH2 Energy Companies of the US has participated in the development of this joint project. We signed an MOU with them last November. SGH2 Energy Company will participate in the Fuji Hydrogen Valley Consortium with the goal of operating a demonstration plant. As you may know, they are well-known high-tech companies using plasma torch technology to produce green hydrogen from waste. Next, we launched the Network Think Tank RIGHT project. The Network Think Tank RIGHT aims to serve as both a platform for international joint projects and a center for gathering information on green hydrogen use from around the world. As the first step, we signed an MOU with Renewable 100 last November, a core organization of archers. This was a signing ceremony. In the middle, we have Ms. Angelina Galateva, the CEO of Arches and Renewables 100. As you may be aware, Arches is a leading organization in the US and all over the world in terms of green hydrogen utilization. As Renewables 100 is the core organization of Arches, we will be working in collaboration with those 2 companies to promote the use of green hydrogen worldwide. This is the main headquarters of Arches, the University of California Irvine campus. This is the vision of Network Think Tank RIGHT, what we hope to establish in the Fuji 5 Lakes region in the future. Lastly, in addition to the 5 invitations from earlier, the Fuji Hydrogen Valley Consortium is extending 1 more invitation to the organizers and participants of the CRC2. We are thinking of hosting a Fuji Hydrogen Summit in the Fuji 5 Lakes region as a special CRC2 Summit in Japan in March 2026. We plan to host a hybrid international conference with Japan, California, India, and Brazil at the summit, alongside many other countries from the international network of the Fuji Hydrogen Valley Consortium. One of the venues we are considering would be the Kawaguchiko Music Forest Museum. It's a stunning art museum where you can admire the view of Mount Fuji. This is one of the conference rooms in the venue. Organized by the Fuji Hydrogen Valley Consortium, we're excited to invite you to the Fuji Hydrogen Summit scheduled for March next year. In closing, I want to affirm the unwavering commitment of the Fuji Hydrogen Valley Consortium. We aim to realize the transition towards a global decarbonized society by envisioning a hydrogen society and engaging in international rule making. It is my hope that together with the global community, we can protect our beautiful planet and secure its future for generations to come. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for that taped recording, Governor Nagasaki, and again from the Yamanashi Prefecture. Let me just jump to you, Deanne Criswell. I have a long introduction, but you have such a wealth of knowledge. You're so committed in this space. So I'll just turn it over to you to help us close out the session.
Well, thank you very much, Deborah, and good morning, good afternoon to everybody. It truly is an honor to be able to join today's workshop, this incredible panel, and all of the speakers that you're going to hear throughout the 2 days as a former FEMA administrator, and giving me an opportunity to reflect on the urgent challenge that I believe defines our time, and that's climate change. Over the last 4 years, and even my time before that, I have seen firsthand the devastating impacts of numerous hurricanes that are getting stronger every time, raging wildfires, historic flooding, and record-breaking heat waves. And I think as all of you can relate, these aren't distant threats. These are here, they're here now, and they're affecting communities across the nation, and they are straining the emergency management response systems and reshaping the very foundation of how we do disaster preparedness and how we do disaster recovery. Now, emergency managers, they have always been at the forefront of responding to disasters. But in recent years, we have witnessed a disturbing trend. We have seen the frequency, the intensity, and the unpredictability of extreme weather events that are accelerating. What used to be considered once-in-a-lifetime disasters are now happening every few years, sometimes in back-to-back seasons. I have seen record-breaking events that broke a rain event maybe just a few weeks before. And the cost of this is measured not just in billions of dollars, but in lives lost, in homes destroyed, and communities that are forever changed. And so while we are here virtually in California, it really has become a prime example of the escalating impacts of climate change. In recent years, I have responded and seen what the state has endured, some of the most destructive wildfires in history, fueled by prolonged droughts and extreme heat. I have seen record-breaking temperatures that have strained power grids and increased the risk of heat-related illnesses and deaths. And I have seen unprecedented rainfall and atmospheric river events that have triggered devastating floods and mudslides, displacing thousands and damaging critical infrastructure. And of course, as everybody has mentioned already, the most recent wildfires that we have seen and have displaced thousands. These events also illustrate how climate impacts don't happen in isolation. The cascading impacts from one intensifies the next. So let me just give you an example. California has been experiencing atmospheric rivers, and I came out here in January of 2023 to see the impacts of the atmospheric rivers that they had back to back over a period of several weeks. These historic storms occurred in areas that were impacted by decades of drought and then wildfires. The result, what we saw, was increased debris flow from historic rainfall from the atmospheric rivers that was moved out into the Pacific Ocean and destroyed seawalls and coastal small businesses with the debris from the atmospheric rivers. These ongoing climate disasters, they highlight how urgent the need is to have proactive resilience measures at both the state, the local, and the federal levels. Yet there is still so much conversation out there about reducing our focus on the impacts of climate change. But let me be clear to everybody here, Eliminating climate change as a priority would have devastating consequences. Without proactive mitigation and adaptation efforts, communities are going to face even greater devastation from increasingly severe and frequent disasters. Emergency response systems, they're going to become overwhelmed, leading to slower recovery times and higher costs. In failing to acknowledge climate change in disaster preparedness policies would put lives at risk, particularly among the most vulnerable populations who are disproportionately impacted. Ignoring the science behind climate resilience, it weakens national security, it disrupts local economies, and it forces taxpayers to bear the burden of preventable destruction. The stakes are just too high to turn away from this pressing issue. Now, while FEMA's mission has traditionally centered on response and recovery, during my tenure, we embraced a broader vision, one that prioritizes resilience, mitigation, and proactive adaptation. We cannot simply wait for disasters to strike and then rebuild. Instead, we must invest in reducing risk before catastrophe strikes. This means strengthening our building codes, elevating our infrastructure, expanding floodplain management, and promoting wildfire-resistant communities. It means working hand in hand with scientists, urban planners, and local leaders to ensure our policies align with the latest climate data. I think, as you heard one of the earlier speakers say, we cannot and we don't need to do this alone. One of the most effective tools, I believe, at our disposal is pre-disaster mitigation funding. I think that you have probably all seen the reports that for every dollar that is spent on mitigation, we save an average of $6 in future disaster costs. But the real value, in my opinion, isn't just financial. It's in the lives saved, and it's in the suffering that we prevent. Mitigation programs like those at FEMA or the Army Corps of Engineers or at the state and local level, they provide an opportunity to turn climate science into tangible action. And we must expand these investments and also ensure that historically underserved communities, those often most vulnerable to climate impacts, receive the resources they need to prepare and to adapt. Because combating climate change and its effects on disaster response requires a whole of government and a whole of society approach. We do not have to do this alone. We need stronger partnerships across state and local governments, tribal nations, the nonprofit sector, and the private sector. Efforts that must be coordinated to build resilient infrastructure, to transition to clean energy, and to ensure equitable disaster recovery processes. Climate change, it's not just a policy issue, it is a moral imperative. And we owe it to future generations to act decisively. We must reduce greenhouse gas emissions. We have to implement nature-based solutions. And we need to rethink how we build and rebuild to sustain our communities. Every choice we make today will determine the kind of world that we leave behind. And I challenge each of you, whether you are an emergency manager, a public servant, a business leader, or a concerned citizen, to take action. I need you to advocate for stronger climate policies, to support resilient infrastructure projects, and to educate your communities on the risks we face. The challenges ahead are great, but so is our capacity for innovation, collaboration, and resilience. We have the knowledge, we have the tools, and we have the resources to build a future where disasters do not define our destiny. The question is, will we act with the urgency that this crisis demands? I believe we can and we must. Deborah, that's the end of my remarks. Thank you.
Thank you so much for those powerful comments, especially from somebody who is so close to the tragedies, but also the solutions and relief that you provide. Just for our global audience, I know we use the acronym FEMA. It stands for Federal Emergency Management Agency. So for those of you who may be out of the United States, for those of us in the United States, we're very familiar with the very heavy lifting that you have led in the organization and throughout the country. In the last few minutes we have here, I wonder if you could each provide a call to action that Deanne just requested, but any one piece of advice you see from your perspective that you would share with this audience, and knowing that we will be having several other convenings. Just could you provide one piece of advice each, Governor Ottichilo? Oh, you're muted then too.
Okay, for me, we must work together. We don't have much time. We cannot waste time in arguing. The science is very clear. What is clear now is what action do we take? There are no blame games. We must take action, and we must coordinate our activities, and we must support each other and ensure that climate change, particularly mitigation and adaptation, are given a top priority for us to move forward.
Thank you. And Deanne, you did give us quite a few comments there, but just that in transitioning your role here, you've seen so much, and as you say, that the compounding effects. What piece of advice would you leave us?
I think one of the biggest things that I had been talking about throughout my time as the administrator and towards the end, really is this increase that we're seeing, and that while we are making these plans and these efforts and putting our actions in place, we cannot just focus on the historical risk that we have faced in the past, that we are seeing records broken week after week, month after month. And so we have to begin to look at what the future risk is going to be and incorporate that future risk into our planning efforts. And while it's not as tangible as the hard data that we have from the past, we do have, as the governor said, the science to better understand what the future risk can be, so we can make smart investment decisions today.
Thank you. So I'll wrap up this first session, and thank you for just lifting up a global perspective and a local perspective. There were some questions. We will try to answer those perhaps in the platform later in the day. And similarly, I saw some hands raised, so unfortunately we will not able to take those questions, but so glad to see people are engaging and having some curiosity and a call to action for us to take. So with that, I will turn it back over to our fearless leaders in navigating us to the next session. And thank you to the governor and to you, Dina, for all the work that you are doing. And we're so honored to have had you on this opening summit.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Deborah. Thank you all. This session is now closed. So if everyone would please join the session from the lobby.